Let's start with yes. Yes, yes, yes. A big, beautiful yes. That's been so important to me in my spiritual journey. And it's important to all of us to just start with a real strong yes. A little bit of willingness goes a long way. And if we can have a whole yes, how fabulous. Now, one of the things I'd like to share with you in this video is that a lot of spiritual students think that spiritual awakening, which is a close connection with spirit and being really loving, is just beyond their ability. But it's not. I've worked with so many people over the last couple of decades, and I can say emphatically, it's just not true. There's something they're not seeing. And I didn't see it for a long time, but once I got it, that changed everything for me. And I'm going to share it with you in this video. First, I'd like to do a quick recap of the first two videos in this series and encourage you to watch them if you haven't already. Maybe watch them again. So in my first video, I started in detail about the spiritualization of the ego and how, for so many spiritual students, they've unwittingly put the ego in charge of their spiritual practice and they don't even know it. That was me. Oh my gosh, was that me? And that's why they're not making the spiritual progress and the traction that they could if they had a more effective targeted spiritual practice. It took me a long time to figure that out. And before I had my big breakthrough, I really wanted to feel that change, that transformation to feeling so connected with spirit in a very noticeable way. But I felt like there was this glass ceiling that I somehow couldn't break through, like there was some secret code that I was missing. And it wasn't until I discovered how to truly walk the talk that I began to truly live the love. So for a long, long time, I was kind of feeling my way in the dark and I just couldn't seem to break through, couldn't seem to get to that place of feeling sure-footed in my spiritual practice. And I'll be honest with you, I was very discouraged. I felt like a failure. I felt like a spiritual loser, which of course I kept hidden because spiritual students are not supposed to feel like a loser. Spiritual students are supposed to feel like a failure, right? We're supposed to feel great all the time. We're supposed to feel lovey-dovey all the time, or it's a spiritual failure. Wrong. That's a myth, and it does not help us. Spiritual folks can have really tough times. We can. Believe me, they can have really tough times. And it doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. We are in the process of changing our thinking. That's transformational. And there are going to be intense challenges along the way. I have to say, working with so many people, I have yet to see anybody who does this work and has major breakthroughs to that feeling of real connection with spirit that doesn't have intense challenges. So intense challenges don't mean that we're failing. They can actually mean that we're doing something right. And I think that's important for folks for people to know. And I really wish that we could talk about that more. But a lot of spiritual students are ashamed when they have a challenge, but the challenge is there to help them. Everything works together for good, and there are no exceptions. That's the teaching of A Course in Miracles, and it has helped me. Another thing that's really helped me is lesson 25. I do not know what anything is for. I do not know what anything is for, except we're on a journey and some of it's mountains and some of it's valleys, and that's the truth of it. Now, in my second video, I shared that the problem or the seeming problem isn't us. It's not that we're a spiritual failure. It's our methods. Our methods are not successful. Our methods are not truly helpful. And of course, they're not, because the ego has taken over a lot of our spirituality. So, that spiritualization of the ego means that we're not going to succeed in our spiritual practice as long as the ego is in charge of our spiritual practice. So it's important to be able to learn how to tell if the ego is in charge of your spiritual practice. So in that second video, I shared some real tools that work, and I shared why they work and how you can begin to apply what I'm sharing. So if you haven't seen the first two videos, I invite you to go back to watch them, as you can really get what I'm building up to here. So, and even if you saw them, you might want to see them again. In my second video, I also shared that people are far too focused on the surface of their life, right? We get a sense of accomplishment if we get all the laundry done, if we get all the errands run, if we get the house cleaned, if we've got the car serviced, and all these different things, that we get a sense of accomplishment from that. And we feel guilty sometimes. Some people feel very, very guilty if all that stuff isn't organized and working perfectly. And so we get a sense of we're doing it right or we're doing it wrong based on those kinds of surface things in our life. So then we're managing and coping with problems, with a sense of failure, with a sense of this spiritual stuff works for other people, but not for me. We're just kind of managing and coping with the surface of these things. And what we're not doing is we're not healing things at the root cause of it. So one of the reasons we're not having the results that we'd like is because of our methods. And we don't have effective methods for spiritual healing, so we can't actually succeed. That was me for such a long time. You know, I spent about 20 years of my life looking for the most effective spiritual healing methods and teachers and programs before I finally found the ones that have been so very helpful to me that I now share with others. And what I'm about to share was a major breakthrough for me, and I hope it is for you too. When I began this spiritual work, I felt like I was drowning in negative thoughts, just drowning in them, even though I'd been a spiritual student for decades. It's true. I was so judgmental and critical. I was a grudge holder. I was a grievance holder. I was a chronic complainer. And I might have been able to hide it to some degree, but it was like a stew I was simmering in all the time. And that's why I had such a big problem with self-medication. I used everything I could, even God, even church, to distract me from how I felt, because I really did feel like such a failure. I had this strong belief that there was something fundamentally wrong with me, and that no matter what spiritual practice I tried, it never would bring me the results I wanted. It would bring other people the results they wanted, but not me, because there was something fundamentally wrong with me. So that was a core belief that I'm so glad that I've been able to heal. And I'm really hoping that what I share with you in this video will help you as well. Now, around the time that I began to have this amazing breakthrough that I'm going to share with you, I'd gone through a number of things that were really difficult for me, including my mother got a terminal cancer diagnosis. So that was a major freak out, very, very challenging. I had work issues that were very challenging, romance issues, all kinds of stuff. And now I can see that those challenges actually pushed me, right? So in one of my earlier videos, I was talking about the pain is pushing you and the vision is pulling you. So the pain of what was happening in my life and my personal frustration with not being able to get real traction led me to a place where I made a decision. Course in Miracles talks about the power of decision. I made a decision, and my decision was to go all in for God, for spirit, for my spiritual practice, for my spiritual awakening. And so I decided to put my spiritual practice first in my life, to make this whole transformation my number one focus. So I was putting my attention on giving up all my judgments, my grievances, my complaints, unforgiveness, resentments, all that stuff. Yeah, because I really was a chronic complainer and a grudge holder. It just, boy, that was me. And so I'm going to break this down for you here. And in A Course in Miracles, Jesus tells us not to ask him to take our fears away. You know, because that's a common thing, right? We feel terrified, we feel frightened, we feel shaken to our core. So we go, Jesus, help me, help me, help me, right? Spirit, help me, help me, help me. So he says, don't ask me to take away the fear, because if I take away the fear, then you don't have any indicator that lets you know when your thinking is stinking. So you'll just keep going on with the thinking and the stinking thinking, because you won't have any awareness that something's wrong. Now, when we feel upset, that's what I call the divine alarm clock going off, letting us know to look for the stinking thinking, that there's nothing wrong with us, there's something wrong with our thought process. So in the Course, he says, if we didn't have those feelings of fear and upset, we would actually be stuck in time and space forever. We wouldn't have that alarm clock going off to let us know we need to choose transformation. We need to, as I like to say, partner up with spirit to let the stinking thinking be healed. So he says, don't ask me to take away the fear. Ask me to take away the root cause of the fear. Ask me for help with the cause of the fear, the cause of the problem, right? Don't deal with the symptoms. The feelings of fear are the symptoms. He says, let me help you with the cause, right? And I often liken it to if you have a cough or a sneeze, people will often treat the coughing or the sneezing, but that doesn't heal the root cause of it. And that's what Jesus is telling us in the Course. Go to the root cause. So I'm going to share with you here what I learned, and I am going to go to my board. Stick with me. So what I realized is, since my willingness is all that's required, if I partner up, that's what I call it, if I partner up with that higher Holy Spirit self, with the I am presence, with the love of God, if I partner up with Jesus, if I partner up and give the heavy lifting to the Holy Spirit, meaning I'm not trying to do this by myself. I'm not trying to figure out how to have a healing. I allow the healing to happen. And the fulcrum point, the mechanism, is my willingness. And that spirit will do the healing for me if I'm willing. So I stepped into this place of great willingness. And I said, I was relieved to let spirit help me relinquish the grudges, the unforgiveness, the resentments, the regrets, the guilt, the blame, the shame, all of it, the jealousy, every little bit of it. And so I started to work with that. And I began to realize that if I was truly willing and I really meant it, at least 51% willing to let that belief, that thought, that attachment go, then spirit could take it out of my awareness because spirit knew exactly where everything came from. Spirit knew all the hooks that this thought, this belief, this thing had gotten into my awareness, where it came from, how long it had been there. I didn't have to analyze any of it. Remember, the ego analyzes what the spirit already knows. And for many, many years, I was analyzing all of my negativity, trying to look for who to blame for it, right? In order to figure out how to unhook it. But that doesn't unhook it. Knowing who to blame for it does not unhook it because the ego, if the ego will lead you anywhere, it will lead you to blame, and blame is not taking responsibility. And responsibility is where we get our healing, when we take responsibility. This is the teaching of A Course in Miracles, that we learn to take responsibility for our thoughts and our feelings. And we take responsibility for our experiences and what we seem to see in the world. And we learn to change our mind about what we see, and that's how the world changes. And it really works. But a lot of us have been really super sidetracked by trying to figure out what the false beliefs are, where they came from, and all of that. But that is not necessary. We can feel upset in any way, a little sad, a little angry, a little frustrated, a little irritated. We can feel any kind of upset and give it to the spirit for healing, not knowing what it's about, not even really sure how we feel. But if we're willing to let it go, spirit can take it out of our awareness. Spirit can heal our heart. Our willingness is the only requirement. We do not need to have any data or information. So I began to work with this and I began to see it worked. Now, simultaneously, I began to realize that, holy moly, I've got about 10,000 negative thoughts a day. And it kind of made sense because it seemed like I could not have an inhalation and an exhalation without a negative thought. I'm serious. And so it seemed like I was having a negative thought about every 5 seconds. And 5 seconds might seem like a short amount of time, but it's this long. 5 seconds, we can have a lot of negative thoughts in just 5 seconds. So one for every 5 seconds, 16 hours a day. Let's say I'm asleep 8 hours a day and I'm awake 16 hours a day. If it's every 5 seconds, that's 11,500 something negative thoughts. So let's just say it's 10,000, okay? Just to make it a round number. So that's what I did. I said, okay, let's say I start with 10,000 negative thoughts. And every day I find the willingness to hand over 10 of them a day to the Holy Spirit. Okay, now what does that really mean? 10 a day. 10 where I'm really 51% willing to let it go. It's not even one per waking hour. So I thought, yeah, I can do 10 a day. I'd like to think some days I could do more, some days I might do less, but I could average it out to 10 false beliefs, 10 upsets, 10 irritations, frustrations, some combination of those a day that I'm giving to the Spirit. So that's 3,650 negative thoughts I can lose in a year. I can just offload them completely in a year. How cool is that? Yes, that's awesome. So then I realized it's a 3-year plan for my salvation, a 3-year plan. Well, at the point that I had this realization, oh my goodness, I had been suffering for so long that the idea of moving to only 3 years of grappling with this felt like heaven. Like, oh, I have an actual plan that can work because it was working. Be willing to just give 10 a day with real willingness to the Holy Spirit for healing. And again, you don't even have to know precisely what the thought or the belief is. You can just notice you feel irritated or frustrated or sad or lonely or whatever it is, and give it to the Holy Spirit for healing with willingness. And this practice, not only does it work in the sense that the Holy Spirit can take those thoughts out of your mind forever, it also works in the sense that throughout your entire day, it will keep you connected with Spirit. Okay, so take that. Now, let me show you something else, which is if you have a wall of blocks to love in your awareness. Okay, you've got a wall of blocks to love in your awareness. And this foundation is going to be the foundational thought of I'm bad. And for some people, it's not I'm bad exactly. For me, it was something's wrong with me and I'm fundamentally bad. It was a combination of those. So yours might be I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy. It could be anything. For me, I also wondered, am I actually evil? That was a real thought for me. So what happens is we have this foundational belief. It's like the foundation of the wall. It's the foundation of the wall of our thoughts. And then all the other negative thoughts are based on that. Because I'm bad, I can never be happy. Because I'm bad, nobody loves me. Because I'm bad, people will avoid me. Because I'm bad, I won't make any real money. And on and on and on up the wall, right? So what most people are doing is they're dealing with these things, right? They're trying to manage and cope and fix these things, these bricks in the wall. And what I learned to do, this is what Spirit showed me, just work on this one. Just work on this one. That all these 10,000 negative thoughts are a born out of this one belief, which is, I'm separate from God. I'm not part of God. I'm separate from God. I'm not good enough. I'm totally different from God. I'm not good. I'm bad. So if we work just on this foundational belief, we don't have to manage and cope with all this stuff anymore. It's extraordinary how much healing we can have when we put our focus on the correct thing, the most helpful, most direct path, and we engage with Spirit and put Spirit in charge, because Spirit can't fail. Spirit doesn't know how to fail. Spirit only knows how to succeed. But when we put the ego in charge, then it seems like we fail because we're identified with the ego and not with Spirit. So let me take you to the next part. So remember to start with your yes. Start with that big old yes. And that's exactly what I did. So for me, figuring out that this actually was a strategy that worked, it was a no-brainer to have a 3-year plan that really worked. And that's actually what I did. And so I'm encouraging you to work with this just over the next few days until I have the next video ready for you. Just try it out. And every time you have a negative thought, say and do this: Spirit, I give you this thought. Please take it out of my mind so I never think it again. Heal it back to the root cause, and do the same for anyone else who has this thought so we never think it again. I'm so done with this. I give it to you forever. Thank you for my healing. Now, I can honestly tell you that some of my thoughts I had such a strong attachment to that I probably had to do that 1,000 times. But eventually, one by one, they all began to go. They really did. So be consistent and be honest about it, and you will begin to see the results. Remember, your results are going to depend on your willingness. Can you actually let these thoughts and beliefs go? Can you let that resentment go? Can you let that thought of revenge go? Can you let the Holy Spirit be in charge of your life? Healing is so much easier when we start to build the momentum of day after day after day, having more and more healing. Those blocks to love, those bricks in the wall dissolving with momentum is a tremendous feeling. It's just a tremendous sense of accomplishment and freedom, and healing and wholeness is going to be your experience. So remember that when you start to get some momentum, you will feel encouraged. And yes, there will be days when you feel discouraged, but you can start to feel encouraged more and more and more. It's really doable. And you know what? You'll probably be able to do this much faster than me because I was super attached to all my judgments and opinions. I was really identified as being a grudge holder, and I hope that you're not. So if this makes sense to you, then you might be interested in some of my many tools for getting to true forgiveness, true healing and transformation faster and faster and faster so that we can all collectively let go of the grudges and the resentments and all the blocks to love that keep us from living the life we truly desire. And it's actually doing this which is walking the talk. And that's what allows us to truly live the love. And in my year-long Masterful Living program, I give you so many ways that you can approach this healing. You can find the ones that work with you because I also give you so much support to find those ones that are perfect for you and to not give up. And so much support for when it feels difficult and hard and tiring and exhausting, because that's inevitable. It's just inevitable. There's no smooth, easy way, but there's a much easier way when we're putting spirit in charge. And this way, you develop a spiritual practice that really works for you, that you can take throughout your day and not just little pockets of your day. You can really make your whole life an experience of your spiritual practice, and that you're living the love day in and day out with steady progress, feeling more and more successful. Yes, you will stumble and fall. We all do, but it's about getting back up again and feeling that you're having success step by step so that you can actually, with all the support that we give you in Masterful Living, you can feel really good about yourself while you're doing it. It doesn't have to be hard. It does not have to be hard. That's one of the things that we're told in A Course in Miracles, but we often do make it hard. And I'm here to find the ways to make it so much easier. It's breathtaking how much easier it can get. In fact, it's so liberating that it's actually fun a lot of the time. And this year, I am making Masterful Living program better than ever. And I've got some extra special things I'm excited to share with you. So, in the next video, I'll share with you some clear steps that I've used to make it so much easier to be walking the talk and living the love so that you can truly, and I do mean it, really heal your heart, connect with spirit, and transform your relationships, your experience of your body, your finances, your career, all those things, whatever's important for you to work on. If you'd like to be on the early bird waiting list for my Masterful Living program, then be sure to sign up right here on this page because I've got something extra special planned and I don't want you to miss out on it. And thank you for watching this video. I love you. Mwah!